What is happening, people, and welcome back to another one of these weekly live shows every Monday, 8 p.m. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by three fabulous guests, two of them with me now. Firstly, Justin, late call up. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you for having us on.
Nice. Pleasure to have you on once again. So thank you very much for coming on. Peter is back. Peter, how you been doing?
I'm doing fantastic, especially after yesterday's result. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. It's great to have you back on. Big up everyone listening live on YouTube. We'll get through your comments in just a second and questions as well towards the end of the show when we get to the questions for the podcast. So yeah, big up. If you are listening live on YouTube, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It's free to do so. Smash the like button, helps more people see it, and we can grow these conversations. Turn the notifications bell on as well for your own sake to keep up to date. If you are listening on a podcast platform, Spotify, as Amazon Music, as well as dropping us a follow and a 5-star review, which would be fantastic. Pause this episode and head over to YouTube and search Scarfy Personal or on X as well and drop us a follow and subscribe. That'd be massively appreciated. As I said as well, podcast platform, 5-star review as well will be massively appreciated. So let's go through some comments before we get into it. Big up DS14 in the chat. Big up Barney. Big up Jay. Big up Bode. Big up Luca, despite him being an Arsenal fan. Big up, mate. Nice to see you in here. Big up Huddersfield Town. Big up Mark. And big up Vinster. Nice to see you all in here. We'll get through some of your comments as well a bit later on. So, Justin, I'll come to you first. Thinking about pre-match for Aston Villa, which is always hard to do. Your thoughts on the lineup, because Sarr, Porro and Johnson all come into that Spurs side. So, any surprises in there for you?
Yeah, I think the only one possibly was Johnson, because I didn't think Werner had been doing too badly. Okay, we could question obviously the miss against Palace, but he did get his goal, and I think he's offered more than what Kulusevski has, in terms of on the wing. The one thing I find with Werner is it's almost like he fits Postecoglou's system really well, in that you want me on the left, I stay on the left, whereas with Kulusevski, I'm on the right, but I will cut inside. And it tends to be that is MO. You can almost just be like, I know what you're going to do. You're going to cut inside. Whereas with Werner, it's more a case of I've been asked to do that job and I'm pretty good at it. So, I was a little bit surprised. I thought maybe he might drop Kulusevski and put, Johnson on that side, but obviously he's gone with him there. And I feel like from a starting, that was one of Johnson's best games. I really did. I thought, on the left, I kind of saw him more as on the right, but he went on the left and he was brilliant. He really, really was. So, outside of that, no, I kind of thought, we a lot of people have talked about Bentancur and Maddison and Sarr, Basuma trying to work out a combination, but I almost feel like that Basuma, Sarr, Maddison's combination seems to work. I just feel that it's almost like when you bring Bentancur in, you lose a bit of stability in the middle, and that's not disrespectful to him, but I feel like he's more of a, just wants to just bring the ball to him and just slowly play it out to, whereas sometimes I just feel that it's almost like Sarr and Basuma know that if one goes off to do something, as we saw with Sarr when he put that beautiful ball in, Basuma almost just dropped back. Whereas I think when you have either Bentancur or Basuma, Bentancur and Sarr, it kind of stifles, particularly Sarr or Basuma, because they just feel like they don't fit. Whereas I think the connection between, Sarr and Basuma seems to have a better feel to it. And it almost just gives Maddison that free rein to go off and do what he has, rather than almost having to feel like he's got maybe like a Bentancur in there. And I just feel that, particularly, with Bentancur at the moment, it's a case of maybe we could develop him into being, like competition for Maddison, because if Maddison get injured, could Bentancur come in and do that job? I know there's been talk of Kulusevski being able to do that job, but I'm just wondering if, particularly with what we saw, and let's not forget at the beginning of the season, that was our sort of middle three, and that was the most stable we look. Once we sort of lost, Maddison, and then obviously Basuma and Sarr went off to the AFCON and things like that, we kind of had a bit of a wobble really around those sort of times. Now we've got them back. I think that was the most stable. So to be honest, The only one that really stood out, I was a bit surprised about, was Johnson for Werner. Outside of that, I thought that would have been the starting lineup that I would have gone for, especially with what I would have been expecting Villa to have put out in front of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you, Justin. He makes some good points there. Peter, coming to you, any surprises? Obviously, as I said to Justin, there was 3 changes in there. Obviously, you saw Bentancur, Werner, and Emerson all drop out the side. So, any surprises in there? Do you reckon?
To be honest, I don't see any surprise in the starting lineup. I believe that is our strongest starting 11. And I mean, from the beginning of the season, we saw how well we played with a similar 11. I think Johnson deserved to get his place, especially when he came on against Crystal Palace. He was pivotal in our win against Crystal Palace last Saturday. So I believe he deserved the start. Porro is obviously integral for our team, so I'm glad he came back in ahead of Emerson. And to be honest, I kind of agree with Justin's point. I think Basuma, Sarr, and Maddison in that midfield 3, they almost complement each other perfectly. That when we did see Bentancur come into the team, it's no disrespect to Bentancur because he's been an amazing player for Spurs, and I honestly do love him. He's a fantastic midfielder. But that midfield 3 we had yesterday, they all work together so well. It just fits perfectly to the way that Ange wants to play. I mean, we saw when Basuma was pressing forwards that Sarr was covering in the 6th row, and Basuma would cover and Sarr would even go out right, like we saw for Maddison's goal. So I do believe that is our strongest 11, and I really think Ange got it spot on yesterday.
Absolutely. Thank you, Peter, and welcome him onto the show. Mark, how you doing?
Evening, I'm full. I've eaten, I'm happy.
That's all that matters. It's nice to have you on. To put you on the spot,
Thank
though, what was your thoughts on that starting 11 before the Villa game? Because obviously there was 3 changes, wasn't there? We saw Sarr, Porro, and Johnson all come into that side. Is there anything that surprised you?
Not really. I mean, toss a coin, Sarr or Werner. Sorry, Johnson or Werner or Johnson or Kulu. I think Johnson earned his place, as I just heard Peter say, and deserved to start. And possibly because of Villa, even with the back 3, play a fairly high line. I think having Johnson and having his pace really helped, and he showed in the first half. I mean, he really took Cash to the cleaners a few times. It just couldn't live with him. I think with Bentancur, I think he came back a little bit too early in January, and it's hampered him the last few games. So I think it was probably round about the right sort of lineup. I just found the Villa setup bizarre, completely bizarre.
Well, I think it's really strange, really.
Well, having beaten Man City and Arsenal at home and dominated both of them, why change for us? No disrespect to us.
Maybe they were worried. Worried about Tottenham.
Yeah.
There you go. But no, thank you very much, Mark. Coming back to you, Peter. Not many notes at all for the first half, apart from it was 0-0 in that first half. Should we have shot more, though, for you in that first half? Because I looked at us and thought, we were all right. Yeah, a little bit vulnerable defensively, but why didn't we shoot?
I actually really agree with you. And I think it's almost a talking point in most of our games this season where we're trying to walk the ball into the back of the net too much rather than taking the odd shot where we have an open chance, really. We try and score the perfect goal every single time. Because in that first half, I was actually quite surprised. We were quite dominant, I'd say, over Aston Villa. I didn't really expect it. I thought we kept the ball well. We just didn't shoot, to be honest. And I think that is really what has costed us maybe in the last few games. But luckily, the second half went to plan really for us. So, yeah, I kind of agree. We should have shot more.
Absolutely. Justin, do you think we should be shooting more on that? That first half, do you kind of feel the same in terms of, we played well, we're just afraid to shoot?
I think it's really a difficult one because the problem that you tend to have is it's a kind of a frustrating one because if you look at how we set up, I almost feel that it's done, it's not so much viewed as we've got to get the goals in the first 45 minutes. I almost feel like with the way that Ange plays, it's almost like if we can just break teams down. And I just wonder if, I think, I do get what you're saying. And, in terms of having those shots and things like that, could it add something different to the game? But I think what Ange is perhaps trying to instill into them is that the game isn't won or lost in the first 45 minutes. it's 1/90. And as we saw in that first 45 minutes, we were okay, but I almost felt like we were just trying to break them down. You know, it was almost like we were just trying to relentlessly go at them and at them and at them until we just eventually wore them down and what have you. So I almost, you know, had it been a case of in previous games where I think we've struggled to do that press, you know, and that's the part where I would have more of an issue with it in terms of like Palace, in terms of like Brentford and people like that, where we really sort of struggled, you know, and they got into the game. I think if we are able to keep our shape at the back, then I don't necessarily have a problem, particularly that game. But I think it's more in other games where if they score, then we know that's going to make it a lot harder for us. So, yeah, okay, it gets that away. But I think maybe what we just need to work on is the players getting better at breaking these teams down in the way they do, perhaps quicker than they are at the moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sometimes move the ball quicker. I think we didn't do that against Wolves, and that's really frustrating. So I completely agree with both of you, actually. Mark, to bring you in on this, do we just not shoot enough for you? Is it a big issue? Like Justin said, do we need to work more on breaking down teams? Where are you at?
I don't think it was a huge issue yesterday. I think we set out to pass and pass and pass in the first half and run the legs off them. They had a tough European night on Thursday night, and I think it was just a matter of wearing them down. Where I agree with the guys is in the previous games where you're playing against a team with a low block, take your shots and opportunities when you can. You never know, and it's a way of mixing things up instead of trying to walk the ball in. But I thought yesterday there was definitely, it almost looked like Ange said, be patient. They will run out of legs last 30, 35 minutes because they're going to have to chase the ball a lot. And it's the hardest thing in the world on a football pitch is when a team's got possession and you have to chase and chase and chase, especially if you're tired and you get mentally tired. And that's when the mistakes happen. So the second goal when Kulu nicked the ball, I can't remember who it was off of, Konsa or maybe someone else.
It was Konsa.
And was it the third goal where Porro and Kulu worked their way down the line, and just the two Villa players might as well have been fans, and just stood there with their arms in the air. It's like what we meant to do, got nothing left, and that just killed them. So I get what the guys are saying. Yes, shoot more and shoot maybe a bit more from distance instead of trying to walk the ball in. But I think you have to look at who you're playing against. The low block teams, definitely, we've got to try something a little bit different because it is getting very frustrating. The likes of Palace and Brentford and Wolves that just don't come out until they want to spring you on the counter. And then it sometimes can be 50-50 as to what happens. But I think yesterday there was definitely a ploy to wear them down and then destroy them, which we did.
Absolutely. I completely agree actually with what all of you have said. I think you're all absolutely spot on for me. As always, people listening live on YouTube, we encourage you to get involved in the comments below. But Mark, you mentioned there in terms of like Villa play midweek, Amsterdam against Ajax. Absolutely. And you know, I think we've all kind of like, you know, when you play football, obviously not to the same level, been in an experience where you played earlier that week. You know, when you're winning, you don't feel it. But when you're losing, you're chasing the ball, you're trying to get back. It's more mentality for me rather than the body. So I think it's a situation, that for Villa. As soon as we got the first goal, and obviously the second goal came really soon after, which led to John McGinn completely losing his head, and we all knew from that pretty much that was done for Villa, unless we somehow managed to throw it away. So, you know, we just kept going, and that was the right thing for me for Ange. But Peter, we'll come back to you. Because in the 50th minute, we take the lead where Maddison scores. What a cross by Sarr, by the way. How important was it, though, to get that first goal, as discussed there? And also, what do you think of the Sarr cross?
I mean, that Sarr cross was unbelievable. It was almost Kevin De Bruyne-esque, to be honest. I mean, if De Bruyne had done that, they'd be speaking about that for the next 5 Monday Night Footballs. So, it was brilliant cross. I think the goal was a real nerve settler, to be honest, because we not struggled to break them down, but we kind of looked a bit timid in our attack in the first half. I think Aston Villa could easily come into the game with a counter-attack with Ollie Watkins or Leon Bailey. They've got fantastic attackers, you know. So I really do think that kind of settled our nerves down. We played with a lot more confidence after that goal. You know, we were pressing high before, obviously, but we were even more urgent in our press after that, and obviously that led to the second goal. So I really do think that that goal was really important and came at a fantastic time for us just after half time.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. Justin, I'll come to you as well on that first goal. How good was that star cross from you? Did you expect that from him? For me, it's sensational.
No, I'll be honest, I didn't at all. And I think if you'd have said to me, anybody, someone's going to whip that ball in, and you left the name blank, the first name would have come to me would have been Pedro Porro. I wouldn't have any point turned around and said of Sarr, because it was just inch perfect, and then just the precision for Maddison to just get right in between. It wasn't like the first play, it just went, it was inch perfect. It really was. And I do agree with what Peter says. I think if it had been like a De Bruyne or someone like that, I think, as you said, it would have been talked about for weeks, because of the quality of it. But it's really good that we hopefully have got players that are able to do that, because that is going to throw teams off. If that's a one-off, then fair enough. But if Sarr can do that and get those type of crosses in, what's he going to be able to do in terms of almost like Alderweireld type, when it's a case of he's going to be at the back and he's just going to be pinging balls all over the place and what have you. And that's another player that we've got. When you add into the mix what Porro does, what Maddison can do, players like that. If you've got multiple players, you can just spread the ball out. You can't really turn around and say, well, we'll just keep Maddison out of the game, or we'll keep this one out of the game, because it shows there is just so much versatility. So to me, I just feel that was it just highlights what an important player he is. When you see players and you think, how important are they? I think we can just see how important he's been, not just for this season, but how he's going to be going forward in terms of integral part of this team for years to come.
Absolutely, completely agree. Really, really sensational player we've got on our hands there that we've committed long term as well. That was really, really important that we've done that. Mark's second goal, 53rd minute. Obviously, as I said there, quick concession in terms of, I think that comes back to the mentality thing from Villa, because Johnson was the one who scored it. Villa were caught. Villa were caught in possession. Yeah. Would you put the goal down to? And is it poor from Villa? Is it good from Spurs? The press.
I watched a little bit of Monday Night Football before I came on this evening, and they were analysing that second goal. Funny enough, Jamie Carragher and Ian Wright couldn't really don't know either of them. Ian Wright's all right, but what one thing they did say is due to the way Villa set up with that back three, they had no one in between the lines, which is the way they normally play. So if they're playing out from the back, they normally will play someone into behind where our midfield two sit, and then work their way through it. But there was no one there because they had a back three and two wing backs. So Konsa's got the ball; he's got no one to give it to.
Yeah,
and he didn't see Kulusevski behind him and could have just nicked the ball off him. So tired minds as well. They don't underestimate an away game in Europe during the week if you're not used to it. And this is their first season in Europe for 20 odd years. But the nice thing was we had runners both sides. He had, I can't remember who was on his right shoulder, Sonny, but he had obviously Johnson to his left and a player to his right. And he picked the right pass and he played the right pass. So many times you see players get into that position now that overhit it, underhit it, or shoot and it gets blocked. I just thought, just clarity of thought. And it was just a really, it just proves that all that pressing works because you'll get your rewards. It happened, I think, against Palace a couple of times, or Palace and Fulham earlier on in the season, might have been. Fulham, I think, maybe, that we nicked the ball off them really hard the pitch and scored both times in that. But it was, and we seem to be scoring in little clumps of goals, sort of 2 in 3 minutes, 2 in 4 minutes, which is a really good habit to have, because that again mentally destroys teams. Doesn't give the manager chance, the opposition manager, a chance to make changes or adjust things. Or okay, guys, we've gone a goal down. Oh God, we're 2-0 down. Now what do I do? So yeah, I thought that was impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Peter, coming back to you, though, because in the 65th minute, John McGinn really felt the heat and felt the pressure, and he was dismissed. For me, rightly so, but obviously I'm very keen to get all of your thoughts on it. But I'll start with Peter. Wiping out a doggy, just to be correct for people who didn't see it. Correct decision for you?
100%, 100% the correct decision. I mean, there was no intent to get the ball whatsoever. He just went and swiped the dog out of anger, to be honest. I don't know what he was thinking in his so-called biggest game that he was making out to be. He seemed to have lost his head, and it was a horrible challenge. I mean, I think Udogie was absolutely brilliant all game. Had that whole Aston Villa team. He ran rings around them, and I think he almost got fed up and just out of maliciousness. Is that a word? Absolutely just wiped them out, and 100% a correct decision. I don't know why I've seen Aston Villa fans saying that it should not be a red card. I mean, that's a red card every single.
Nor do I. Absolutely. And Barney absolutely backs you up in the chat, saying totally correct decision, was a nasty challenge, and that's coming from obviously a neutral fan, being a Fulham fan. Yeah, for me, it's the right decision. We don't want to see that in our game. Yeah, okay. There's been instances where maybe that something similar has been given, but you just look at that pace and there's no intention to win the ball. And John McGinn was the one giving it the big one for the game as well, and he's just gone and bottled it for his team. So that will hurt, that's for sure. Justin, bring you on it. Red card for you, or was it a debatable one?
No. I've seen it a few times, and I think I do get where people would say, is it a red? Is it a yellow? The thing for me that edged it, if you look at what led up to it and what happened afterwards. So the event itself, when they sort of freeze it on VAR and things like that, I think that event part itself, people would say, well, it's not rash. Yes, okay, he's clipped him and he's gone flying, but it's the bits in between that have caused him the problem. It's the fact that he has just ran out of nowhere. He's pretty much then booted him. And you can then see at the end where he completely lost control of himself. The fact that he was nearly falling backwards showed he had no control over that challenge at all. And there was clearly no intent to get it. So I understand where they're coming from if you look at it in terms of that minor section of it, but it's everything going into it that just makes it feels like you absolute idiot. Because as anyone knows, at 2-0, you're still in the game. And okay, we were playing better, but why on earth would you do that? I just don't get it. From somebody that I mean, if you'd have said to me if an Aston Villa player had done it, I wouldn't have picked John McGinn. But the fact that he did it and watched it, I thought, you've just killed your team. Tottenham, I don't think it would have made a difference. I still think they'd have won the game, but it just made it a darn sight easier at that point. And it was just a reckless, stupid thing to do, especially as it was one of the most important games of their season. So it was definitely a red, but I do get why some people in the smaller part would have said otherwise. But no, if you see the whole thing, it's just absolutely stupid.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's really fair. Thank you very much, Justin. Mark, to kind of bring you in on this. Red card for you, and did it change the outcome at all? Because for me, it absolutely didn't. You're on mute.
I was coughing.
Yeah, you were, yeah.
So I thought it better to mute myself if it happens again. Red card, definitely. No, it didn't change the outcome. We were just in complete control anyway. And the one thing I looked at, because my son went yesterday, I didn't go, is look at the picture as McGinn's walking off and Konsa looks at him and goes, use your head. Even one of his own teammates thought it was brainless. I have seen a few funny comments from Villa fans saying it was a trip and the doggy made a meal of it and a couple of other things. Obviously watching a different game, but yeah, it was the reddest of red cards for me. There wasn't any doubt about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely spot on. In the 91st minute, we go 3-0 up. Son gets a third to seal the points officially. Assisted by Dejan Kulusevski. I've been quite critical of him, but obviously won the ball back for the second goal. Obviously getting that assist there. So Peter, from you, great finish, firstly, for you, do you reckon, from Son? And Kulusevski, what did you make of his performance?
Firstly, I thought it was a fantastic finish from Son. Brilliant build-up play from Porro and Kulusevski on the right-hand side. Lovely nutmeg from Porro, which was obviously brilliant. Son, one of the best finishes in the league of the Premier League history, to be honest. So I wasn't surprised he tucked that one away, no matter how difficult the chance was. But fantastic cross from Kulusevski as well, who I thought his first half performance wasn't that good, but I think he really improved in the second half and was really pivotal for 3 out of 4 of the goals we scored. I think he was majorly involved for the majority of our play in the second half as well. So I think he's a fantastic player, especially away from home. I feel like he can hold up the ball a bit more. You know, maybe in games where we're playing at home, where we need a bit of pace to go at defences, he could be utilised more in the 8 role in the middle. But especially away from home, he holds up the ball so well. He's got fantastic technical skill ability about him. He's a fantastic player, and the cross was just perfect for Son.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin, again, what do you think of the goal? But mainly, what did you make of Kulusevski in that game? And still, do you think that, obviously we'll get on to Fulham, so I don't want to necessarily put the question to you about Fulham. But do you think he's... Okay, save that question for later. Firstly, what do you think of the goal and Kulusevski's individual performance in the game?
So in terms of the goal, I think what I liked about it was the fact that we didn't take our foot off the pedal. You know, we might have done, I think, a little bit in between the red card and, having to obviously see how Villa were going to shape up. But once we worked out how Villa were going to shape up down to 10, I think then we just put our foot back on the pedal and got the final 2 goals. And to me, that's the one thing I did like. We didn't do anything stupid, because I think Villa would have probably thought it'd be nice if we can get a player sent off, make it 10-all, and sort of go from there. So I think it was very sort of sensible of that. But the goal itself just highlighted the fact that ultimately what we are seeing with this Tottenham team is a relentless nature. You know, we don't just want to win 1-0 or things like that. As James Maddison, I think, said a few weeks ago, we'd quite like a nice 3-0, easy game. And I think we got a 4-0 easy game, to be honest, from that. So I think that was, it was a nice performance. And also the goal itself just summarised it, really. As you say, Kulusevski getting the ball back, putting a beautiful ball in, for Son. And obviously that being, I mean, it was game, set, and match anyway, but that kind of put the icing on the cake, really, for it. In terms of Kulusevski as a whole, I think he's okay at the moment, but he's not, for me, the permanent answer. I think he does some good things in there, but I think he's too predictable. And I just feel that if we were to look at our sort of wingers, I think I would probably say I'd be happy to stick with Johnson and Werner on the left, because I think those two, Werner came on and didn't, he had a nice little cameo. Johnson played really well in terms of for his goal and his performance. On the other side, I feel like we've just got Kulusevski, and to me, I don't think he should be first choice. I think he's a good option and someone to give that competition with, but he did okay, but there's times I always find that he's either too predictable or goes a bit missing, if that makes sense. So I thought it was okay, but I think come the summer, that will be an area that needs to be addressed.
Okay, fair enough. That's interesting. Mark, what were your thoughts on Kulusevski's input yesterday?
I thought he was, second half, it was a lot more positive. He has become very predictable. I'm not sure, Justin, that they'll look at that in the summer. I mean, they've only just signed him on a permanent this season. So I think Johnson can cover both sides. I think that's the beauty of Johnson. He can play right or left, so he can cover both of them. We don't know how Solomon's going to come back. And if we do sell Richarlison and buy a proper striker, number 9, then Sonny's back out to the left. So there's that sort of, there's plenty of cover. I think there's still quite a high ceiling for Kulu. He is 22, 23. He's still very young.
I think, yeah.
23. I think he's still very young when you look at most of that squad that they're sort of growing up. The one thing that struck me yesterday with all of them was a very, very mature performance. There are only 2 or 3 heart in mouth moments in the game, where normally we've got about 15 or 20 of those.
Very true.
I think I'm exaggerating only a little bit, though. But I thought yesterday was a really mature, in a really, really important game. It was must win for us. A draw and still 5 points behind, albeit with a game in hand away to Chelsea, would have really, and United breathing down our next 4 points behind, 3 points behind. So it was must win, and it was a very mature display.
Absolutely. Meta Football TV, big up, released a comment live on YouTube. It says, even all, great match, total domination by Spurs to overcome a lackluster Villa. We move on. Well said. Couldn't agree more. We'll get to questions as well, Omar, towards the end of the show, just in your comment there. Peter, before we get to player of the match, 94th minute, we got the fourth goal. Cherry on top, if you like. Werner scores. The perfect performance, though, right? With a clean sheet as well. Couldn't have asked for anything more.
100%. I wasn't expecting it, to be honest. I thought it'd be a lot closer to the game, but we haven't had a clean sheet for ages. It was fantastic to get that clean sheet feeling again. And the fourth goal, brilliant team goal, fantastic for Werner's confidence. Who, before last week we were saying, will he get a goal? He's been in fantastic positions, but seems a bit timid in front of goal. Man, that strike was fantastic, fantastically placed, fantastic finish. And it was just the icing on the cake of a fantastic performance, to be honest. I mean, 4-0 in such a big game is absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Justin, your thoughts, obviously, on the goal, obviously keeping a clean sheet, but mainly I want to know your thoughts, Timo Werner and his life, so far in Spurs shirt. What have you made of him?
I think, to be fair, he's pretty much done what we've asked. He's come in, he's given us an option on the left. I think he's been consistent. Okay, he's having to build into it, but for me, I kind of feel like actually for 15 million, I just don't see how Tottenham don't take that option up. I really don't, because I know that Mark thought maybe we can look at it differently, but I kind of feel like that option's on the left. If the club decide to go with Werner and Johnson, it kind of is quite settled, really. I just feel that since he's come in, he's given us, he hasn't, I'm trying to think how to put it. He hasn't sort of given really an awful the effort. You can see of what he's trying to do, and he seems like a player who enjoys playing under the Postecoglou system. And I feel like, to me, that is something that he sort of sets, and I feel with Werner, to me, I think the long-term option will be Johnson. But I feel like if you can have Werner as well as a backup, I don't feel that's a bad real shout, to be honest. And if it means, and this is where, I know we'll probably come on to it into later on, but if it means that Tottenham can go big elsewhere, and I mean really big elsewhere, then 15 million for an option that, let's face facts, is going to be, as we saw against Villa, an impact option. I don't feel that's a bad shout, to be honest. But that's the key part. I don't want it being that he's coming in and he's the main man. It's got to be that he's coming in and we are then going big elsewhere, because I feel like that is what Tottenham need to be doing now. Yeah,
absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And Mark, before we do move on, talk to me your thoughts. Timo Werner, is it, like Justin says, you would sign him?
It's a no-brainer. Absolute no-brainer. 15 million quid is pocket change by today's standards for an international footballer. I think that one of the reasons we moved to sign him was obviously Perisic not being available for most of the season, and then obviously going at the end of the season. So I think that's a change for next season that's already taken place in the squad. If they sign Werner on a permanent, he's a natural replacement for Perisic, who was cover at best anyway. Werner might start a few games, but I think his impact off the bench late in games with tired defenders, again, similar to how I felt Johnson would have been used this season while he got to grips with the new playing style and everything else, having arrived really late in the window. But the injuries have forced Johnson into the team, which I think has led to a lot of unfair criticism.
Yeah, Absolutely. Fair enough. Now moving on to player of the match. Peter, I'll come back to you first. Who is your player of the match and why? For me, I find it so hard to choose.
There were so many top performances yesterday that it is really difficult to choose, but I've narrowed it down to two. I think Papa Matasar, because he was just overall influential in midfield, and Destiny Udogie, who I thought absolutely ran the show, in my opinion, yesterday. He was fantastic defensively, offensively, driving, passing, defending, everything. He has the whole lot. At 20 years old, I mean, what a bargain. Was it 18 million we signed him for? I mean, you can't thank Paratici enough for a fantastic signing. He's definitely one of the best in his position at such a young age. And I think yesterday, again, he showed why he has all these qualities. You know, it's just a fantastic player.
Certainly did. Absolutely. Mark, who's your player of the match? Got anyone different in there?
Højbjerg for that Cruyff turn in the middle of the park. No,
That
I'm,
was
jo- I'm
lovely,
joking.
wasn't it?
I'm joking. I'm joking. I'll go with the doggy. I just think they just could not handle his ball carrying, his physicality, and everything else. And I'm just intrigued as to how high the ceiling is with him and Sarr, because the pair of them, I'd give them 10-year contracts, because if they are that good, I wouldn't want them going anywhere. I really wouldn't want them going. I don't think there's any chance of that anytime soon, but we need to push on next season and maybe win a little shiny thing just to help everyone settle in and stay. But a doggy for me, because they just McGinn's reaction and that foul just tells you everything.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I can't be bothered chasing you anymore. I'm just going to kick you.
Absolutely. Too hot to handle for me, I think, yesterday. Justin, who's your man of the match?
To be honest, we can keep this short and sweet, because if I say anything other than what I said when I was streaming yesterday with Spurs Kings TV, then you're going to lynch me because you were on it hearing me say it. So I'm going to be joining with everybody else. Destiny Udogie absolutely tore Villa to shreds, made Johnson's life so much easier. And as Mark rightly pointed out, they couldn't deal with him, to the point where I think McGinn's idea, although he lost his head, was if I can just kick him, take him out, I might get a yellow and we'll be all right. But no, absolute superstar in the making, definitely.
100%. And Justin, staying with you, what did you make of Johnson on the left? Obviously, you touched on it earlier. Do you think we see more of him on the left? Obviously, got his goal. Do you like what you're seeing from Brennan Johnson?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. As I sort of said, I feel like from what we've seen, particularly with that game and things like that. I mean, I do agree with what Mark says. I think his versatility is absolutely fantastic. But I feel like, we've got to get to a point now with players very much, if you look at particularly where we should be going towards, which is, Man City, where players know their positions and they stay and they're set in those positions. I feel like with Johnson, it should be a case of that should be similar for him. And then obviously, if he's needed to cover elsewhere, then that's fine. But I just felt seeing him in that position, it just seemed like he enjoyed himself. He had that fun. I mean, we've tried others there. We tried Richarlison there and it didn't work. We tried Son there and I was surprised that it didn't work, but it didn't seem to work. I think that's maybe more because of the fact he was having to feed into Richarlison than what he was used to in terms of feeding with Kane. But in terms of, Johnson, it just felt like that he really was comfortable. He gave them an absolute torrid time, but also what we found was he was just drifting all over the show. They just couldn't cope with him. So, I thought he was a close shout for man of the match, but obviously gave it to Udogie. But no, I'm absolutely happy with him being there and hopefully being there for the long haul.
Yeah, well said. Completely agree. He's getting better and better, I think, game by game. Bigger impact. Also, we saw that on the left as well. We need to all, I think, get behind him, regardless of our thoughts on him while he wears the Spurs shirt. Same with absolutely anyone. Peter, we'll come to you. What do you think of Brennan Johnson? Generally, start to life, if you like, we'll say start to life. It's been quite a while now. What do you make of his time so far, should I say, in the Spurs shirt? And him on the left yesterday, did it work for you?
I mean, if I remember rightly, last time I was on the show, I think I said we've got to give Brennan Johnson time because he's a young prospect.
You were absolutely spot on.
I think I was right. I don't want to sound like I'm boasting here, but I can't fathom the hate that some people giving him on Twitter. I mean, he's still a young lad. He's shown his qualities. I mean, I think yesterday on the left wing is his position because that was his best game he's had in a Spurs shirt, and one of the best performances we've had all season individually, to be honest. I mean, he was pressing so high. I mean, he was slide tackling everywhere, trying to win the ball back off Matty Cash, which was also a bonus, leaving one on him. But yeah, offensively brilliant yesterday. Fantastic finish into the roof of the net. It's great composure one-on-one against one of the best goalies in the world, to be honest, Emi Martinez. I think he had a fantastic game, and I think the left wing is his spot, to be honest. I mean, I like Werner in the left wing role as well, but Brennan Johnson really shone there yesterday afternoon. So I think we can settle that role for him there.
100%. And before we move on to Fulham, Mark, I'm going to come to you first, because the club announced in the week plans to raise season ticket prices next season by 6% and also scrap senior concessions for the 2025-26 season. Are they both the right or wrong decisions for you, and should they be reversed? Talk me through it.
You've read most of my tweets this week, I presume.
I have. That's why I asked you first. And I agree. I agree with everything you said, by the way. I think you're absolutely spot on. That's why I want to come to you.
The 6% I can stomach, and to a certain extent it was coming this year. We haven't had a season ticket price rise for 2 or 3 years. They put the individual match price tickets up last summer, so therefore it was always coming. Whether it was 4%, 6%, 8%, I think is a moot point. The treatment of the senior citizen concession prices is an absolute disgrace. Now, I'm 10 or 11 years away from that. So I'm now, if this goes through and they keep it, I'll have to pay a full adult price by the time I get to 65, 66.
Shocking.
The problem I have with that is I'd have had a season ticket for 60 years. I did a general little calculation. Now, I used to go home and away. There were 10 or 12 years I went every single game. Europe. I've had a season ticket since 75, 76. And if you add on an average cost of travel and food and drink and everything else from home and away games and everything else over the years, I calculated I'm in for about 125 grand in my lifetime already. That doesn't take the next 10 years into consideration that they've had offered me shirts and kids' tickets and stuff. How can you treat people that have spent half the cost of a house? So in some parts of the country, that might even be a house. I don't know. But certainly that sort of sum of money over their lifetime, when we say, do you know what? You're not bringing enough money to the football club, so we're going to scrap your concession price, and you're going to have to pay full price. And if you can't, we'll give the ticket to someone that can. And that's what it feels like. And I've spoken to quite a few people who are senior season ticket holders, and whilst a few of them can afford it, it's just the way they've done it just leaves just a horrible taste in the mouth. Yeah. And they want the last point on this is they go on about the bringing the future support to the club. Well, I only support Spurs because my dad supported Spurs and his dad supported Spurs. Now, if those fathers and grandfathers can't afford to go, what's going to happen?
Yeah,
we're not going to get the next generation of supporters coming along. It'll be, and I've been racking my brains to find another word for it. I don't like the word tourist because there are quite a few people who've messaged me and said, would rather you didn't use that word. And I said, tell me what to say then. But those that come once a season, and it's not a criticism of them, but actually they probably spend way more than I do going to Spurs. If you have 19 different people using my seat, one for every home game, they'll all go to the shop, they'll all buy this, they'll all buy that, and they'll spend a lot more than I spend on my season ticket. So, because I was asked the question, do I think they'll ever do away with season tickets? And I don't think they can afford to, because then you lose a whole chunk of supporters.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Wayne says live on YouTube, ticket prices are always going to go up, but the concessions thing with the LD supporters is abhorrently disgusting. Very bad move from the club, especially with the image they want to project. Before I get to Peter and Justin's thoughts, I just want to say for me, in terms of like the individual 6% increase, I think it's more a football issue rather than a Spurs issue. We've seen Arsenal increase their prices this week. We've seen Fulham, the extortionate prices with their new Riverside stand, actually higher than us, which is just absolutely bonkers if you think about it, considering Fulham are, etc. Size of the club, I think, compared to Tottenham as well, with no disrespect for Arnie or any Fulham fans. Of course, I think football fans should come together and stop the price rises. It's wrong, working class people, etc., being forced out of the game, of course. But I think it's more of a football issue. But where it is a Tottenham issue is with the senior concessions, because that is exploiting and punishing loyalty. And there's no place for that in everyday life. There's no place for that in football. And that's where we all need to come together, regardless of our thoughts on the owners, the board. And one thing I can always come together with is when fans are exploited, we have to come together as a unit, not calling each other out. We have to combine, hundreds of thousands of fans and call this out. Justin, would you agree? And your thoughts on the 6% increase and also the scrapping senior concessions?
See, I do agree. I think it is totally wrong, but I think unfortunately the difficulty now is that loyalty doesn't really go that far anymore. As we've seen, it is a case of, when we've seen people put up on Twitter, or X now as it's called, about trying to get tickets and the queue can be ridiculously long. It doesn't matter anymore. I agree. I think, the 6% part, I'm 100% with Mark. I think the 6% part, it's horrible, but you get it. Other clubs are doing it. We didn't do it last year. It was going to be coming. The concession part, I just feel like it is a slap in the face to the people who have supported Spurs for 20, 30, 40 years. But the sad part now is that the club, not the club, but football itself, is becoming something, as I say, of more of a tourist attraction, and people they'll just turn around and say, well, if you won't, there is someone who will come in their place. And I sort of have seen what the Supporters Trust have done and things like that, and that feels as weak as, no disrespect to the Supporters Trust, but in recent times, what we've seen from them, they didn't even turn up to their own protests. So to me, I wasn't overly surprised that we've seen very little from them, and the fact that they've not really seemed to be backing it up. I think the only thing that we're probably going to see is a very aggressive letter going to Daniel Levy, which will probably be used, to go to log to fire to keep him warm and what have you. So I don't think we're going to see anything of it. I think for me, what I hope this does give, because I don't think it can give an excuse otherwise for it, is that the signings in the summer now cannot be bang average. We cannot be saying, oh, well, Luton have gone down, so let's try and sign some of their players, or Burnley have gone down, there might be potential to get from them. No, that is the moment they did that for me is the moment that went. The excuses all went and things like that, because I sort of looked at it and I just felt that at the end of the day, we're seeing talk of Pedro Neto being linked with Liverpool and Newcastle because they're big spenders. No, that's now got to be us. We've got to be looking like Dusan Vlahovic, Ivan Toney, Federico Chiesa, the big star names. If the club are not going to back down from this, and they're not going to alter it, which it sounds like they're not, because we've not really heard anything come from them, and I don't think we've really seen much come from the Supporters Trust apart from a few aggressive tweets.
Yeah.
To me, I think the club then have to now say, and I kind of get where Postecoglou came out, because he said about the fact that we're not going to be signing £100 million players and things like that. And I sort of understand where he's coming from, because you don't want to say we're going to, because instantly any player Tottenham go for becomes a £100 million player. But what we've got to now find, and particularly in the summer, and I think all Spurs fans cannot, there's no way we could never have another 500 days like we saw before. There's none of this sort of, it was a bit too much to get that player. Rubbish. Absolutely rubbish. If there is a player that fits that position, that is who we get. And to be fair, last summer we saw it with Van der Ven and James Maddison, and we've seen it with Dragusin and things like that. The players that have been the manager has asked for are the players that have come in. But what we now need to see is that Postecoglou, if we're going to turn around and we're going to have to swallow these prices, and seniors are going to have to swallow.
There needs to be a reward.
Yeah,
absolutely.
they need to go there and see the fact that their team are going to go toe to toe with City, are going to go toe to toe with Liverpool. With the 8th richest club, in Europe. Not in the Premier League, in Europe, right? So the days of, we've got to keep our budgets, clear, we've got to be careful and things like this. And especially now, as we've come out and said, we're going to change the rules so we can spend 85% of our revenue. Well, 85% of £500 million, which is or 550 odd million pounds, I don't know the exact figure, but that's quite a big transfer budget that is available to Tottenham to go big. And if they are serious about backing Postecoglou and they are serious about taking this forward, it can't be this we've got to fight for top 4. And I love that about Postecoglou when he said that, when he turned around and it was a case of, I don't care about top 4, that's not a trophy, why would I be here just to get top 4? I'm here to win. I'm here to take this club forward. And if the club are going to turn around and tell the fans, loyal fans that have put up with 24 years, I think we're now coming up to, since we last won a trophy. Was it 2002 where you last won a trophy? I can't.
2008, I think.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
2000. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. But even so, 16 years. Enough's enough now. And so I took a step back because I'll be honest. Before Postecoglou came in, I was ENIC out, I was Levy out. I wanted them all gone because I just felt like we become a business rather than a football club. That has now changed, but that now has to be extended. Okay, we can't just be sitting there and thinking, we're in the battle for the top 4. Rubbish.
Absolutely.
We need to be in the battle for the title. We need to be battle for the Champions League. We need to be battle for the cups. It can't just be that the pockets are full. The trophy cabinet now needs to be full. And I'm sorry, but if in the summer we don't go big and we buy bang average, I think every fan needs to then say, enough is enough. You're taking the mickey on the prices and you're not doing what you said you were going to do, which is fund it back into the onto the team, because that's what they said. We're doing this, so it'll all go back into the team.
No, I really appreciate that, Justin, because obviously you provide, I think, a really balanced view. As you said there, you're openly, you were ENIC and Levy out. I like your balance in terms of how you look at it, so I really do appreciate your opinion on that. Before I get to you, Peter, I've started the show and given Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust credit over the years with stuff they've done and things we do off the pitch as well. But, I feel like I'm in a position to do so considering we have given them a lot of credit. At this moment in time, for me, they've been too weak. They're a Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust, very key in the name. They represent supporters. They stand up for supporters. At this moment in time, apart from image, for me, there's not enough being done. A letter's not going to change anything. A protest will. And as Justin says, turning up to your own protest is a very good start, believe it or not. So for me, they need to, I'm not saying they don't work hard, they need to do more to campaign on fans' behalf. The kind of image of, let's display 5 messages of Spurs fans that had horrible stories. No, one-on-one interview them, invite them in person, deep interview, and show the club how deeply it affects people. Like as Mark says, the senior concessions, talk to someone like Mark, how it will affect him and people like Mark. And I think that'd be a really good thing. Dive deeper, show you care about the fans. So for me, at this moment in time, it's weak, it's incompetent, and it's not enough, and they're not representing Tottenham Hotspur fans. But that's what I think. I could go on all day. They need to step up to the table because at the moment in time, they seem very shy. It's not good look at all. And as far as I'm concerned, their reputation is on the verge of being ruined. But Peter, talk to me. 6% increase in season tickets. Is it excessive? Is it acceptable? And most importantly, senior concessions.
I mean, to be honest, I'm quite disappointed with the removal of the senior concessions. I mean, I've read a lot on Twitter from older fans that have had season tickets for many years, 40 odd years I've been reading, and they're saying that they may not be able to afford it anymore. I mean, with their pensions, especially with the cost of living crisis, it will affect more and more families as well. I just think it's really disappointing, and I agree with what both Mark and Justin have said before. The 6% as well, I mean, Justin touched upon it earlier as well, we make so much revenue. Was it really that necessary to increase season tickets by a further 6%, with the 8th richest club in Europe? I mean, it's a bit unnecessary, to be honest. I'm really disappointed with how the board have acted, to be honest. It's a selfish way of exploiting brand loyalty from loyal customers. And Justin also, mentioned about he would like to see a reward from this, with better players being brought in, maybe signing those marquee signings. But with this board, can we really trust them to bring in these major players, that we've been promised over the last few years,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you very much. What we'll say is, as Scarfy Spurs, like we have guests on, we're very keen to get a lot of different views. But one thing that I will say, and there's an opinion of the podcast that we'll put out there, is we absolutely stand against exploiting of fans. And just to put that out there, it's wrong. And that's what we're seeing at the moment the club are doing with the senior concessions. So we, as a podcast, and myself as an individual, absolutely stand against that. Obviously, we encourage everyone to get involved, get in contact, get involved in the comments as well if you are listening live on YouTube, because it affects a lot of people. And it's very sad, so we're always interested to hear your story. But for now, won't be the last of it. We move on to Fulham on Saturday. So Peter, coming back to you, how are you feeling at this moment in time ahead of the game? And also talk me from 1 to 11 for your lineup.
So I'm quietly confident against Fulham away, to be honest. I mean, Fulham are no easy team by any stretch of mean, away at Craven Cottage, never easy place to go. They have been doing well at home this season, to be honest. I think especially recently they beat Brighton 3-0 in the last game at home, I think, where they did lose to Wolves on the weekend. So I think we may just have a bit more quality than them overall to edge a result. For my starting 11, to be honest, I'd like to see the same starting 11. Unless Van de Ven is injured, I'd bring in Dragusin, who I thought played extremely well, looked extremely comfortable at the back, for his first prolonged minutes in a Spurs shirt. I think he done fantastic, kept it nice and simple. So I'd like to see the same starting 11, keep Johnson because he was just fantastic against Aston Villa. And yeah, if Van de Ven's fit, I'd still go for Van de Ven over Dragusin, but we have to see what the scan is saying first.
Absolutely. Justin, how are you feeling ahead of Fulham? And talk me through your lineup as well.
Well, to be honest, this is probably be quite short and sweet because I kind of agree with a lot of what pretty much everything Peter just said there. I mean, the frustrating thing for me is knowing Tottenham after an amazing performance like that, they'll absolutely stink Craven Cottage out and lose 2-0. Because Tottenham have this in them, but hopefully Postecoglou is beating it, kicking and screaming out of them. So. But I agree again. I think it should be the same. But one thing I would say that perhaps Peter didn't say, which is around Van de Ven, and this is where I think Tottenham now need to change slightly their mentality. If Van de Ven is, let's say, and I totally agree with that comment, 100%. In terms of with Van de Ven, if he's 100% and he's fully fit, yeah, he starts. No question about it. But Tottenham have to stop this whole, you're 75, you're 70, you're 60, 65. We probably can put you out and you play the full 90 minutes. We saw with Maddison when we did that with him, he didn't come back to his best and it took months to get him back to his best. In terms of when you look at, what was his name? Bentancur. He got injured and it took him a while to come back to it. So I just feel that if there is any doubt that Van de Ven is not going to be fully fit, then I'm sorry, Dragusin should start. That's why we brought him in. 100% that's why we brought him in. He fitted in perfectly. He played really, really well. And I don't see any reason to have to rush Van de Ven back if it means he's going to, tear his hamstring and then he's out for the rest of the season. I'd rather just turn around, stick with Dragusin and Romero and go with the rest as they are, because I think at the end of the day, that is why we have a squad. No excuses.
Absolutely. Fair enough. Mark, how are you feeling? Craven Cottage off the back of that 4-0 win at Villa Park and your lineup.
I agree with what Justin just said. If there is any doubt on Van de Ven, almost if it's sort of 80-20 that he's fit enough, you've got a 2-week break after next weekend's game. Exactly why we bought Dragusin. Look at the difference it made.
Don't take the risk.
Yesterday, when we brought on an actual centre-back to play at centre-back rather than a full-back.
And a top quality centre-back.
He's an international footballer. I mean, and Romania are actually not a bad side at the moment. They're actually have improved massively over the last few years. So I almost at the point where I wouldn't even take the risk. With the running the last 10 games that we've got.
Yeah, I don't think I would.
There's a lot of huge games coming up, and I wouldn't want to face the likes of Arsenal or City or
Liverpool, City, yeah,
or
absolutely.
even Newcastle or Chelsea without Van der Ven. He's so important. So I'd say release the drag.
Yeah, absolutely love
let
it.
it go. And I know Justin sort of said we'll probably go and lose 2-0 because that's the way we can be at times. We'll definitely score. 39 consecutive games we've scored in. I fancy us to score against anyone.
Absolutely.
But I actually fancy, and away from home, actually, our away form this season has been better than our home form. We only lost 2 away games all season. One of them was that weird game at Brighton where we decided to give them penalties and then nearly turned it round at the end.
Because they nearly come back and win the game. We had so many chances,
Yeah, and the other defeat was Wolves away, 1-0 up until about the 90th minute, and then it all went what's it's up.
Pear-shaped.
Yes, that's the one. Thanks, Eric Dyer. Hope you're enjoying life in Germany.
I think he is, to be fair.
I read something just before we carry on. I read something earlier, but just before you came on air, someone put, if we win on Saturday against Fulham, we'll be closer to the top in the Premier League than Bayern are to Leverkusen. Wow. Which is a bit weird. Yeah, we'll be 8 points off the top, and Bayern are 10 points behind Leverkusen.
Yeah, apparently still in the title race. What does that say? Just saying.
Don't even let me go there.
No. I'm not starting that again. Last time I was starting that, I went a bit like that. I said it. It's like a day. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, literally a day before the Chelsea game. I was like, if we win, I was asking my dad, if we win, there's a title fight on. Back to reality. But never mind. We'll move on to score predictions. Peter, I'm going to come to you first. I'm very sorry. I haven't even given you time to think. Give me your score prediction.
I'm confident. Like Mark said, we should score based on statistics this season.
Absolutely.
I think Fulham have got a really strong attack. You know, they've got Muniz, who's banging in the goals recently, but I actually really like as a player. I mean, he's fantastic. Yeah. You know, vocal striker. So I can see us maybe conceding one. I think it'll be a 3-1 win to Spurs, though. I'm quite confident we will win.
I still absolutely take that. Thank you very much, Peter. Mark, how are you feeling?
I'm going to go with another clean sheet. 2-0.
Okay. I like the positivity.
They are very good going forwards, Fulham, but I think if we can stop them, then there'll be gaps at the back.
They're very ropey defensively, though. So
yeah,
I can't against Wolves.
Yeah, I can't imagine they're going to sit back and low block us at home.
No.
They
go for it. Yeah, no, absolutely. Justin, how are you feeling?
I think it'll be an interesting game. As I said, I can't see them, you know, as Mark rightly said, I don't think they're going to sit back. I just don't think that's in the Fulham's nature. Obviously, they've got some fantastic players in, as you said, Manos and Paulinho, you know, and you look at, I think, obviously, the likes of like Harry Wilson and other players like that who can really, I think, punish teams. But I can't see it being... I think about a draw, but I don't know. I think Tottenham will nick it 2-1.
Okay, thank you very much for going through the comments here. Yeah, I can see us conceding. Fair enough. So that is your score predictions. I'm not feeling quite as positive, if I'm being honest. I think that there's goals in it from both teams. I'm hoping I'm wrong with my score prediction. I'm going to go with 1-1. I think that it'll be quite frustrating. I think that we put a lot into that Villa game. I don't know whether we'll be able to follow it up. Again, I do hope that I'm wrong, but I'm feeling a draw in this game. That's something I felt for quite a while. But, you know, would any of you take a point? Put it out there.
To be honest, no.
We shouldn't.
No.
We shouldn't.
No,
that's where the mentality has to change.
Yeah.
We shouldn't. That's the key part.
I don't think so. Not after beating Villa.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't have
the games we've got coming up.
I wouldn't have taken a point yesterday. So I'm certainly
Would you not?
Yeah.
No, I would have. There you go. Good mentality, though.
Yesterday was must win, and that was the only thing we should have gone out for, and we did.
Yeah.
But we need to show that same intensity next week.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Before we get the questions that people put forward on Twitter, so thank you very much for your patience. Stay tuned to the end. We're gonna do the usual question, and that is how many points do we get from our next 3 Premier League fixtures? Our next 3 games as follow: Fulham away, Luton at home, West Ham away. Obviously, Mark in particular, regular on the show, you know how this works as well. And I ask you every week, and it changes every week. So a reminder for people who didn't hear, want it repeated, it is Fulham away at Craven Cottage, Luton at home at the Tottenham Stadium, and West Ham away at the London Stadium. Justin. Yeah, go on, Mark.
I was going to say, the only thing for me is you've got that 2-week international break where anything could go wrong or right, or
That's why I put West Ham in it.
I know, it's just, well, it's Fulham and Luton are either side.
Yes, of course, it's in between. Yeah. Okay.
International break between Fulham and Luton. I want to say 9, but I'm going to say 7 because we all know that West Ham will turn into 1970 Brazil when we go there and play them, despite them being absolute rubbish most of the time.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Justin? I'll say 7.
Okay, so you've got 7 from Mark. Go on.
6. Because I just know that when we go there, as I said, we've had 2 weeks away. They'll have time to prepare for their cup final, and I can imagine that that'll be the one game they really will feel they'll need to turn up for. So I just have a horrible feeling with it. That to me, as I said, I think we should hopefully win the last 2. The first 2, sorry, but yeah, I can imagine with that international break, we'll probably somehow just pull out a Spurs performance and lose that one. So yeah, I'm going to 6.
As I say, Justin, the West Ham game is not directly after the international break.
No, I get that, but it's more the fact of it's taken into account because Tottenham. I always find it's very difficult to work what Tottenham is going to turn up after an international break because obviously we're quite good with the momentum when we have that 2 weeks away, and bearing in mind it's more of a cup final it means more to West Ham than it would do to us because of the nature of them winning their cup final. That's why I'm saying I reckon 6 points.
But Justin, that World Cup, like under Conte, completely killed us. But for me, I'm not, I'm usually positive, but I'm not feeling confident. Fulham, as I said, I think that's a draw, so that's the point. Luton, I think we win. I think it'll be really tough. I think Luton, will fight back as we see like they do in every game. I've got a bad feeling about West Ham. So I'm going with 4 points, which I think that feels really low. I think it's the lowest I've ever gone from when I asked 3. I usually go with about 5, 6, usually 7, not 4. That hurts a bit. Peter, are you more optimistic than me?
Yeah, I agree with Mark. I reckon we'll get 7 points, to be honest. I reckon we'll beat Fulham, beat Luton. It's just the West Ham midweek in their cup final, under the lights. You just know they're going to put up the best performance of the season. So
you certainly do know.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Unfortunately.
Absolutely. Before we get to the questions again that people put forward on the podcast, thank you for your patience. Quick FPL update in our league, Harry Scarf's league. First is Tom Carstill, Luca Fagna up to 2nd, Ted McCoy up to 3rd, Mickey Race falling down to 4th. Same with Kai Gott in 5th and Tommy C in 6th. Sean Holder in 7th. Robin Mumford, big up from Valve, moves up to 8th. Mark Sweeney in 9th. Luke Charlton up to 10th. Will Savage 11th. Danny Sands 12th. Lewis Godfrey 13th. 14th. George Wanya, 15th Matthew Spears, 16th Aaron, 17th Magnus, 18th Rob Perry, 19th Richard Nurse, and 20th Kaya Daniel. That is the top 20 of the FPL league. I hate FPL. I'm 96th out of 117. That's dire. That's proper dire. But we quickly move on from FPL. I mean, I have a desperate move to move on from FPL. I need to sort FPL. So let's move on to the questions that people put forward for the podcast. First one in the live chat from Jay. I'm going to put to you, Peter, actually, because Jay says, my question for tonight, if we sign Werner permanently, would you sell anyone? If so, who?
To be honest, no, because I think if we do get into Europe next season, we would need that squad depth because we saw how many injuries we had this season. I think always having an attacking option off the bench is pivotal, especially in the European competitions. Say we get Europa League, try out a few youngsters maybe. The only one I might be willing to sell is Brian Gill, to be honest. Just I believe he's a bit ineffective. But other than that, no, to be honest. I would like to keep all our attackers and maybe even add a few more.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Next question I'll put to you, Mark, because Lucas says, what additions could we make in the summer to improve our starting 11 and the squad? What positions should we focus on if you had to nail it down to one or two?
I'd certainly look at upgrading Richarlison and bringing a high quality
Really?
line. Yeah, I'd look at a Watkins, or I'm not a fan of Ivan Toney, the person.
No.
And to be honest, having watched him a few times since he's been back, just find him a little bit lazy. But someone like Watkins, I think, would be perfect. I'd potentially. We've got to buy a fullback, whether it's left-sided or right-sided. We have to have proper. You're never going to get like-for-like cover, but almost as if you can get like-for-like cover for Udogie or Porro, because it showed last couple of games without Porro, we're so less effective. And a couple of extra bodies in midfield. I think we've got Bentancur, Sarr, Bissouma fighting over two places. Maddison doesn't have a huge amount of competition, but Kulu, I think, was very effective when he played there earlier in this when Maddison was injured. I think you've got to look at, if you sell anyone, they've got to be replaced. So if Højbjerg goes, which is likely, he will be replaced. I can see Hill going. I can see Emerson going. Unless you want to keep him on as cheerleader. I love Emerson as a person, but a bit like Højbjerg, he's limited and he can't do what the best 11 players do. He can't do what Porro does. Højbjerg can't do what Sarr, Bissouma and Bentancur do. Yes, he can get away with a Cruyff turn in the middle of his own half like yesterday, once in a while, but he couldn't have put that cross in that Sarr put in. Not in a million years.
So. We've got an incredibly bold shout here on YouTube. Bring in Anthony Martial.
Oh no!
What are your thoughts on that?
No.
Not for me.
No,
absolutely not.
I think he's just too injury prone, to be honest. I think he's got fantastic ability. But
that's my issue with Neto. I mean, he went off at the weekend with another hamstring injury. And they're going to want 70 million.
What about Hee-Chan instead? I'll go for Hee-Chan.
I like Hee-Chan, and it would keep all the Korean supporters when Son eventually retires. I didn't say that out loud. I didn't say that out loud, did I? Yes, I did. I like Hee-Chan. I just don't think he's going to. As Justin said earlier, you want to. I'm not saying go big in terms of spending. I did a whole piece earlier on in the week on £100 million players, because there is this obsession after Ange mentioned it. There have been 4 £100 million players bought in by Premier League clubs, paid £100 million. Enzo and Caicedo at Chelsea. You can argue neither have been a success. Jack Grealish at Man City, but that was his release clause. I don't think he's been instrumental to their success. And the only one, and it sticks in my throat at the moment, who's been worth every penny, is Declan Rice. But other than that, you look at every other £80 million plus signing: Wesley Fofana, Mudryk, Havertz, Lukaku for Chelsea. I mean, they're not worth the money. So
Chelsea's a prime example of splashing the cash and not, recruitment being done properly.
There's ways of doing it. I trust the setup we've got now, based on the last two windows. I actually trust them to get it right. And if that means going to buy a couple of £60 million players and a couple of £40 million players, then so be it, rather than 2 £100 million players. I mean, how many? Again, Vicario is the obvious example. Half the price of Raya.
Yeah.
And for me,
we need to get the recruitment right. Where I will agree with Justin is in terms of the price we paid. I will agree. And we're not sitting here going and saying let's sign Mbappe right now. None of us are saying that. I get what Justin means in terms of with the prices going up, etc. Long term, we want to see these big profiles coming in. I love this Spurs team, but someone said to me the other day, maybe there's no world class players in it. I mean, it's true. I don't think it's a necessary issue, but I think our recruitment's been well in the last 2 windows. And I do agree. I trust them to get it right. And if we see more what we've seen in the last 2 windows, I'll be happy. And that's bringing in good players for the good prices and clever recruitment. So.
Much depends on whether we're in the Champions League or Europa League.
Yeah.
Whether you can
Because Champions
attract
League,
those.
obviously, a lot of players come. Yeah,
players want to play in the Champions League.
Yeah,
If
of course.
So
I think to be honest with you, I think it's a bigger factor more than money for Tottenham at this moment in time. I think it's more the players go, oh my God, I want to play in Champions League. There's a lot of players that you look at Neto, he want to be playing in the Champions League next season. He has every right to say that. Maybe He-Chan as well. But Justin, I'm going to give you the next question. Don't know why I chose you since you talked about signings. Dream signings earlier. Courtney says your dream summer signing, if you can nail it down to one. Obviously, it has to be within reason.
For me, I think because of the statement it makes and the quality it would bring, Federico Chiesa, because I feel like if you look at then having a front three of Chiesa, Johnson, and Son, that's devastating. That is devastating to me. And I think you look at everywhere else on the pitch, I think, we've kind of got a pretty fairly decent first 11 there of top quality. But that is somebody that comes in and really makes a difference, makes an impact. It puts Tottenham on a level to say, we're not playing around anymore. And to be fair, I've read the reports they could get him for say like £60 million. Because Juventus, obviously, I think there's they might not even get into the Champions League. So there's talk there might be an issue. But for me, if I had to pick one, because there's two, it would either be Chiesa or Vlahovic. But just to comment on what you've sent to me, I'm going to have to shoot off. So thank you all for letting me come on. And, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I look forward to doing it again soon.
Absolute pleasure to have you on, Justin. Where can people find you before you go?
To be honest, generally on Twitter. So if you give us a follow on Twitter, I'm usually on with you, whether it be here or Spurs Kings TV, giving Marlon grief. So pretty much
as
those
always,
two places. Yeah, and it's lovely to watch. So give Harry and Peter and Mark a follow and keep supporting the channel. And obviously thank you so much for having us on, and I look forward to doing it again soon.
Absolutely. Big up, Justin. Big up. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Fantastic evening. And we're down to 3. Just 3 left. So we're going to keep going with the questions. What question should we do next? Peter, I'm going to give you the next question from Ramin. Let's bring it up there. Spurs, top 4 or not?
I mean, after yesterday's result, we have to be optimistic. I think we have to say here. I think we are better than Aston Villa, to be honest. I think we can edge them over to top 4, to be honest. I think, we will get top 4.
Love it. Love the positivity. And Mark, for you, because Barney asks as well, does that result put Spurs firmly into the picture for top 4 place? Are we in prime control for you now?
We are now officially in control of our own destiny. And no, I don't mean a doggy.
Oh.
Sorry. Okay, we won't have me on next Monday now.
No, you're in big trouble.
I think we are. I think we always were. I think Villa have shown signs. Apparently, they've lost 3 of their last 4 in the league, which I didn't realise. Yesterday was the first time this season they have failed to score in a home game.
Wow!
Of all the teams to fail to score at home to,
little old Tottenham. We caused
Tottenham.
Villa to play a back 5 for the first time at Villa Park. We caused John McGinn to get absolutely rattled, Matty Cash to get absolutely rattled, and they don't even score.
And my favourite part of my favourite part of the whole of the game yesterday, and I will answer the question eventually, is when Bentancur fouled Cash in the last seconds.
Yeah.
Just left a little one on him just to say, I've not forgotten, but I'm not going to get booked for it, and I'm not going to cripple you because I'm not that type of player. But
he looked fuming, Matty Cash. He looked absolutely
just a little bit of naughtiness.
We love it.
I think we're in complete control of it, to be honest. Villa's next 3 are West Ham away next weekend.
Okay.
Then they've got Wolves. I think they've got Wolves at home, which is obviously the Midlands derby straight after the international break, and then I think they've got City. So actually, the opportunity for us, if they drop points against West Ham and we can beat Fulham and Luton, and then obviously they've got the Midlands derby and then they've got City, I think actually, it depends on what happens with their Ajax game. They could win that, and that gives them another 2 games to play, which then gives them a much heavier schedule. Or they could lose at home to Ajax and get knocked out, and mentally that might hurt them. Because Ajax are really not a great side. Apart from Jordan Henderson, of course. Gareth Southgate's favourite.
Don't get me started.
We could do a whole show on that.
We could. Remind us to the chat that we're here to talk football, not to abuse each other and accuse each other of things, and talk rubbish. Yeah, we appreciate a lot of what you do, and there's a lot of incredible people who make the show really special. But there's been a lot of backs and forwards I've been monitoring, and it's gone on way too much to the point where people are targeting individuals. So please be respectful. We're all for disagree with opinions. We're all for debates, discussions in the chat. But when it comes to hate, discrimination, that won't be allowed on the channel. Again, a very strong take on that. Anyone will be in place in immediate timeout. And if found again, we remove straight away without any doubt from the live. So be absolutely no messing around there. Peter, I'll give you the next question. If I can find it, and that is Eze to Spurs and offload Giovanni Lo Celso, which apparently is my lookalike. So can you see that? And would you offload Lo Celso? Be kind.
I can actually see that, to be honest. Yeah. I think Eze's a fantastic player. I really do. I mean, the free kick he scored against Spurs, I know he just came back from injury that game, but the way he was driving out of defence in such a pragmatic team, it shows he has fantastic quality about him. So, yeah, well put there, Harry, before. I think Lo Celso's... I really do like Lo Celso. I really want to get behind him as much as I can, but I do think his injuries have been such a major issue at Spurs. It's what's let him down, because we know he's got the technical ability. So I think if we can get the right price for him, I would sell him. And Eze's a fantastic player, fantastic option off the bench, or even to start. You never know. So I would take that option 100%.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Mark, question from Emerson SZN. Obviously, saw him in earlier. Speak up, listen in. Your question's been answered. He says, one player you thought who had a poor game yesterday, if you had to choose anyone. I find it hard to choose one player. So if there's anyone for you, Mark, that you thought was poor, I'm going to be really unpopular here and say Romero. And that's unpopular.
I disagree.
There you go.
He gave the ball away a couple of times.
I think it was bad. If I had to choose anyone.
I actually would say I don't think anyone had a bad game yesterday. We're going to get the way we play. We're going to give the ball away from time to time, and occasionally in poor areas. Vicario played a ball out to Dragusin.
Yes.
He absolutely... Well, he played it to... First of all, he played one out to Bissouma, and Bissouma was literally 2 players around him. Played it straight back, and then Vicario just blasted it at Dragusin, and he sort of miscontrolled it. No one had a bad game yesterday. It was a really good...
so hard
we made 3 subs, didn't we? So for me, 1 to 14 were all very good.
I thought Højbjerg come on and done well. Werner, Dragusin.
Werner, Dragusin, Højbjerg. That was the 3 substitutes, wasn't it? There wasn't any others.
Bentancur.
Oh yeah, Bentancur. So
well
4
done,
substitutes.
yeah.
So there were 15. It was the Højbjerg one I probably forgot about more than anything.
How did you forget about the Cruyff turn?
That
was special. Then the little dummy and that successful pass. I thought Gio was going to put the ball out of play. That was class.
I don't think that was a dummy. I think he saw something on the floor and sort of like went like that and sort of dropped the shoulder and by mistake. No, I'm being cruel. He has got that in his game, and it will come off once every 6 or 7 appearances. And that's my problem.
I love Pierre, though. I'm not going to lie.
He's a great professional, and he's an international footballer. But for what we want to be and where we want to go, he's not the answer. Even as a, the problem I have is I don't mind him coming on for 20 minutes, 15 minutes at the end of a game when you're 2-0 up, because he actually has got a very good football brain in that respect. It's when he has to start games. He gets I think his brain gets scrambled. He gets a bit overexcited or whatever, and tries to do things he's not capable of. For 90 minutes is the point. So
Yeah, no, absolutely.
no one had a bad game. Sorry.
No, absolutely. Next question. I'm going to ask Peter, actually, Lionel. So sorry if you don't like that, but I'm going to. My show, my rules. Lionel says, "Hi guys, who would you say has been Premier League player of the season so far? Bias aside, I'd say Rice. It'd be, as Peter said there, in my top 3. So if you had to choose one, Peter, who would it be? I'm really struggling. Palmer's in there and a few others like that for me. Van der Ven's got to be in there.
Yeah, 100%. There's been so many fantastic standout players this season. So many outstanding players. Højlund, I guess you could agree, yeah?
Yeah, recently.
For me,
top 10 for me.
Yeah, 100%. He's been influential, especially after the December period. But I think the best player has got to be Phil Foden this season. I mean,
good shout.
He's been exceptional, to be honest.
Good
and
shout, good shout.
Really carried City in some games they've underperformed. You know, he's really got them big results, especially Brentford away and Man United at home. So for me, he's been up there. But Declan Rice, I have to put my hands up. He has been amazing, chipping in with a few goals as well. Definitely top 3, but Phil Foden, number 1 for me.
Yeah, no, that's a really good shout, actually. I think that's a really good shout. Mark, next question for you, which you've already engaged with, as I can see there on X. Thank you very much. Lucas says, who'd your front 3 be against Fulham? Obviously, you've given what you think the front 3 will be. So what is your reasoning behind it?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think Fulham might play a very similar way to Villa. Not necessarily with the back 3 and the 5, but I just think they might sort of try and they'll leave a bit more space behind. And I just think Johnson's pace with Werner off the bench, Kulu, tight little pitch, tight little stadium. Kulu won't have to sort of do huge amounts of sprinting and stuff on that side. And also Kulu's relationship with Porro is it's almost got to the point where it's telepathic now. And that's where I disagree with Justin, that I know he's not here to defend himself, is I think the relationships on the pitch are very, very, very important. Sarr and Bissouma is another one. They're feeding off each other. Obviously, Romero and Van der Ven.
I forgot in terms of player that really has been stood out this year.
Yeah, if he's not in the reckoning for Young Player of the Year, then they might as well just do away with the awards. But we all know that Saka's going to win it because he'll be winning it when he's 30. Young Player of the Year, I mean.
Mark, Porro and Romero, they've had an outstanding relationship this season. You can see when they're defending, it's been brilliant. They've both really improved defensively.
And the same on the left side with Van der Ven and Udogie. And I think where you've got, especially on that left-hand side, where you've got 2 players who are new to the Premier League. One is 20 and one is 22.
Yeah. That's mind-blowing for me. Yeah.
I mean, Romero's 24, 25. He's World Cup winner. Porro, 23, played a lot of European Champions League games and stuff. So he's quite experienced in compared to the other side of the pitch. That left-hand side has just astonished me this season. The maturity,
incredible, yeah, absolutely,
and everything else is just bizarre. And one last piece on Johnson before we go is because he has taken a lot of criticism. We've discussed this before.
Yeah, unfair criticism,
yeah. 10 goal contributions this season. Kulu's 9, 700 minutes less. That's 8 games, and he arrived 3 games into the season. And he gets all the criticism. Oh, he's not this, he's not that. He didn't pick the transfer fee. The club set that. That's nothing to do with Johnson.
Yeah. But I hear a lot of Kulusevski and Saka comparisons, and I will defend Saka in this case. I think that's unfair to Saka. Where's the Johnson and Saka comparison? Just to put that out there. Big up Lily White Lane in the chat who says, great performance, a win yesterday. We should start calling Salah lawnmower. Love it. Covers every blade of grass. On that pitch when playing. So young yet so consistent. Some world class, and Brennan Johnson brilliant up the Spurs. That is spot on. Never thought of it either. That's a really good one.
Gutted I didn't think of that one.
Oh, I know. That's something you come up with. He's beat you to it. There we go. You've got to come up with another one, Mark. But Peter, I put the last question to you. Well, there's the last one. I'm going to answer the one after. Actually, both answered it. Brody says, would you take Arteta as a manager of Spurs? I'm from an Arsenal fan.
No, never, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, because I think we've got one of the best managers in the world, Ange Postecoglou, who will lead us to glory in the near future, hopefully. So, yeah, that answers Brody's question.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I wouldn't take Arteta at this moment in time. I think he's done all right. Obviously, got a lot of backing. I think he's to be honest, I think he's done well. But at this moment in time, I'm happy with Ange Postecoglou and we're going in the right direction. The last question says, would you rest Van der Ven against Fulham and start Dragusin? I would. Yeah, I would. I think that there's no point for me taking that risk. Obviously, you two have both answered it already, but that wraps us up perfectly for today's show. Thank you very, very much to the wonderful comments, wonderful people listening in, and most importantly, the wonderful guests as well. Big up Justin, who's left. Firstly, Peter, thank you very much for coming on again. Obviously, you're going to take some time away with your education. You won't be on recently, but it'll be absolutely fantastic to have you on next season. A lot of people will be glad to hear that. And you continue to make people jealous and inspire. So where can people find you?
Oh, thank you so much for the kind words.
Anytime.
I've played the second of every single live stream, so it's been an amazing journey. And obviously, hopefully I'll be back next season. People Absolutely. Can find me Poro Season or Poro SZN on Twitter, funny tweets sometimes, spaces sometimes as well. But yeah, that's where you can find me on Twitter.
Yeah, massive win. Absolutely. Mark, yeah, I will see you on Craven Cottage yet. First of the way day, I'm absolutely buzzing. Bring it on. Bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. Mark,
at Mark Spurs on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Some of my threads are a little bit long. I do start waffling at times, but
that's what I get told. I get told I waffle. Don't worry, we'll be the wafflers together.
Perfect.
Love it.
I won't be there Saturday at Craven Cottage, but my son will. So just look out for someone with a ponytail. Looks like Dragusin. Literally, he is Dragusin in disguise. So
yeah.
Anyway,
absolutely.
I have to run. So thanks for having me on.
No, thank you very much. We're ending now. So thank you very much, everyone. You can follow me if you want to, Harry Scar 22. But most importantly, like, subscribe to the channel. We massively appreciate it. Follow these guys on all socials because I'm both proud to announce they'll both be regulars going forward. Long term from next season, a very key addition to the podcast. Very keen to get a team here. It's been delighted to be joined by both of them again today. So thank you very much. Big up chat. Always be respectful. So thank you very much to that. And as we always say, come on, you Spurs. Get in.
This is an older song from us that really caught on. It's been sung by many fans at various different grounds. So really appreciate your support on this one. Quite simply, it's about a guy who's ginger. He came from Juventus and he plays on the wing.
There's not a soul out there, no one to hear my prayers. Give me a ginger from Sweden. He came from Juventus and he plays on the wing. Give me a ginger from Sweden. Number 21, his name is Kulusevski. Give me ginger from Sweden. He came from Juventus and he plays on the wing. Give me ginger from Sweden. Number 21, his name is Kulusevski. Working as a manager at Celtic Park. When we met you, we picked you out, you shook us up and turned us around. You've turned us into something new. Ange Postecoglou, You know that we believe it when you say you're gonna change it. Ange, Postecoglou, with a mighty Tottenham, and nobody's gonna stop them. Oh, he looks so fine in blue and lily white. And then he said to me, I'm from a land down under. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou, oh. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou, oh. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou, oh. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou.